The Super Smash Bros. Series is known for how well it can reference a character's home series through their moveset. What is probably the most famous type of move on a Smash Bros. Character's kit is their Final Smash, which is meant to be a massive and deadly final attack. These all vary from character to character in terms of how powerful it is and in terms of how good of a reference it is. I already made a video ranking all the Final Smashes in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. However, I have a little secret to tell you guys. That video does not feature every Final Smash in the series. While yes, it does include all of them seen in Ultimate, a few characters have had their Final Smashes changed or updated throughout the series. Final Smashes were introduced in Brawl and have been in every game since, meaning 61 characters had Final Smashes before Ultimate. Of those, only 30 have had the exact same Final Smash from when they were first introduced, which leaves 31 characters that have had their Final Smashes significantly altered, ranging from being an entirely different move to aesthetic tweaks. So today, I'm going to run through all of these cut Final Smashes, explain what they were, and if I personally find them to be better or worse than the one the character has in Ultimate. If you enjoyed this video, then please make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel, and let's jump right into our first character. Also, if I speak fast in this video, it's because I'm trying to get back to playing Tears of the Kingdom. So sadly, my main man Mario has had the same Final Smash since Brawl, which sucks because Mario Finale is not based on anything. Let my man transform into the T-Rex from Odyssey or something next time, that'd be really cool. Well anyway, our first actual character with a cut Final Smash is Donkey Kong. In Brawl and Smash 4, Donkey Kong had the Conga Beat. Essentially, this would have DK summon some bongo barrels and he would have to time a button press based on the notes above him. If the timing is successful, then anyone within close range of DK will take damage. This Final Smash is infamous for being really awful. That's why I'm sure many people were happy with this new Final Smash, being the Jungle Rush. This just lets out a punch, and if it connects, DK will do a ton more before one last strong hit. Now functionality-wise, the new Final Smash is better, no contest. However, and this might just be me, I kind of like the idea of Congo Beat a bit more. It's far more unique than the one in Ultimate, and it's easily recognizable. Yes, Jungle Rush is based on an attack too, but a bunch of punches feels kind of lame. I sort of hope they find a way to rework Congo Beat to function a lot better, because I do genuinely think it is a pretty good idea. Our next character, Link, also had a different Final Smash I hate the Triforce Slash! If you watched the Final Smash ranking I mentioned before, you would know that last place was Young Link's Triforce Slash, because it's not based on anything at all. Well, before Link got the Ancient Arrow from Breath of the Wild, a really fitting move for a Final Smash, he had this stupid thing. He basically just traps the opponent in a Triforce, slashes a few times, then KOs them if he can. It's just so lame. I think the worst part about it though has to be the fact that the other two Links, to this day, have been stuck with it. Thank goodness they bothered to update normal Link, because 3 people with the same Final Smash would be super boring, especially since the Final Smash isn't even fitting on a single one of them. So yeah, if you can't tell, I hate this thing with a passion, and I hope it never comes back. The other 2 Links better be safe from it as well, because it is really annoying seeing it still be in the game. Alright, that one got a bit heated. Let's look at a significantly smaller Final Smash with Samus' old one, the Zero Laser. Wait, doesn't she still have this in Ultimate? Well, yes she does. However, in Brawl, this actually had an additional use outside of the attack. In that game, Samus and Zero Suit Samus were actually one character, and to switch between them, they would have to use their Final Smashes. Seems a lot harder to do than the down special every other transformation character uses, but regardless, upon finishing Zero Laser, Samus would shed her armor and become Zero Suit Samus. You know what, since we're already on her, Zero Suit Samus' old Final Smash in Brawl was called Power Suit Samus, where literally all she did was put the armor back on. Yeah, she does pull opponents toward her for some damage, but it's really nothing that exciting. So what do I think of these compared to Ultimates? Well, I personally prefer the characters to be split. I think they play so differently that I don't think they really need to be together. So I'm gonna say that these 2 old Final Smashes are definitely worse than what they currently have in Ultimate. Moving down the roster, and we have yet another character who changed, Yoshi. In Brawl and Smash 4, he used the Super Dragon. This is our first of many transformation Final Smashes, which were basically entirely removed in Ultimate. These would transform a character into a much more powerful form, where they would then have to try and attack anyone they can before the transformation expires. Sakurai said he felt as though transformation Final Smashes broke up the flow of a match too much, so nearly everyone who previously had one got it changed. Yoshi here is based on the shell powers he could get in Super Mario World, namely the fire from red shells and flight from blue shells. I personally think this makes total sense as a Final Smash, as Super Mario World was of course Yoshi's origin game. In Ultimate, it was changed to be a cutscene Final Smash, which references Melee's opening. Don't get me wrong, that reference is really cute, but I honestly think I prefer his old one. It's a much better reference for something Yoshi can actually do. Add on that it's much more unique than a cutscene Final Smash. I mean seriously, there's like a billion of them. And you have yourself a Final Smash that I like a lot more. Man, they really could not get these N64 characters right, I guess, because Kirby also had an entirely different Final Smash. In Brawl, Kirby would use the Cook Copy ability to drag in all nearby opponents and items to turn them into food. This was certainly a pretty unique Final Smash, but it was changed to Smash 4 to have Kirby use the Ultra Sword from Kirby's Return to Dreamland. Honestly, both are pretty good, but if I were to choose a favorite, I'd have to go with the new one. Not only is the sword a much more iconic copy ability, but this is also a modern Kirby reference, items, and he is in desperate need of those. So yeah, I definitely like the Ultra Sword more here. Okay, now we have Fox, and let's just cover Falco and Wolf too, since they have the exact same changes. You remember how I said it would be lame if 3 characters had the same Final Smash back in Link's segment? Well, the Star Fox crew actually did that, with all 3 of them having the same Final Smashes in both Brawl and Ultimate. Smash 4 would have most likely also made that list too, but you know, Wolf was killed. In Brawl and Smash 4, the Star Fox characters used the Landmaster. This was another sort of transformation Final Smash, and it's known for being stupidly strong. You could shoot at people, run them over, and heck even just straight up fly them into the blast zone. Unfortunately, in Ultimate, this was replaced by Team Star Fox or Team Star Wolf, where they use their R-Wings in a cutscene. While it does probably fit better, man is it lamer. I think the most boring part about it though is the fact that all 3 of them now have this new cutscene. I say give one of the 3 the Landmaster in the next Smash game just to spice it up. The Electric Rat also got their Final Smash tweaked. While he's always used Volt Tackle, the Pikachu family's signature move, the way it worked used to be much different. In Ultimate, Pikachu will fly forward, and if it manages to hit someone, they'll deal a ton of damage before launching them away. In Brawl and Smash 4 though, you could actually control the big ball of electricity, which I personally found a bit more interesting. And for our final Smash 64 character, we have Luigi. Somehow the Poltergust hasn't always been his Final Smash, despite it being super obvious, as in Brawl, he used the negative zone. This might just be the weirdest Final Smash in the series. This would create a large field around Luigi that sets all of the colors to negative and applies random effects to anyone caught inside. This is apparently a reference to how Luigi used to be a palette swap of Mario, but yeah, that's not really a good basis for a Final Smash. I can't bring myself to call this bad though, because it is just so bizarre that I kind of love it. Yes, the Poltergust is obviously way better reference-wise, but a part of me is still a slight bit sad to see this one go. After the massive 8 characters that changed Final Smashes from Smash 64, the Melee characters luckily didn't change that much. First we get to start out with Bowser. He was another character that fell to the no transformation Final Smashes curse, as in Brawl and Smash 4 he got to turn into Giga Bowser. Essentially, this just let you play as the boss, which can still be seen in Ultimate, but this time in an actual match. This was however changed in Ultimate. While he does still turn into Giga Bowser, he now grows significantly bigger and places himself in the background. Now the Bowser player has to aim a massive punch to kill as many people as possible. Now unlike the other transformation Final Smash changes, this is one I can actually get behind because it's still unique in its Ultimate form. In fact, I actually have to say that I love Ultimate's version far more than the old one. It just looks so much cooler and is significantly more fun to use. Heck, I love it so much that it landed at number 2 on my Final Smash ranking, so I think it's safe to say that I'm pretty on board with this change. Our next 2 characters, Sheik and Zelda, actually used to share the exact same Final Smash. In Brawl and Smash 4, they would use the Light Arrow, which fits well seeing as Zelda does actually use light arrows in Twilight Princess, the game that Zelda was based on. Sheik doesn't, but to be fair, she was only ever in Ocarina of Time, so there's really not much to work with for her. With Link getting the Ancient Arrows in Ultimate and Dark Pit already having a similar Final Smash with his staff, I imagine that's what encouraged the team to design new Final Smashes for these 2. While the references for each are a bit weaker, Sheik's is one of the coolest looking Final Smashes in the game, and Zelda's is the most powerful Final Smash in the game, so it's kind of hard to complain about either of them. I think the new versions are definitely an improvement, though the Light Arrow wasn't a bad choice for the time. The last 2 Melee characters only received minor tweaks. Ganondorf conceptually uses the same Final Smash in all games, transforming and then charging forward to kill anyone in the way. However, since Brawl and Smash 4 featured Ganondorf's Twilight Princess design, he transforms into Beast Ganon as opposed to Ganon the Demon King from Ocarina of Time, which is what's used in Ultimate. I like Ocarina of Time significantly more, so I think this change was a good one. I mean, that's probably because I never played Twilight Princess, but... Our final Melee character to get an update was Game & Watch. In all Smash games, he becomes an octopus. However, in Brawl and Smash 4, Game & Watch had full control over it, as opposed to it just rushing forward with an adjustable height like in Ultimate. The Ultimate one has always felt a bit unnatural to me. Maybe I just got used to the old one, but its update just doesn't feel as cleanly done as the other transformation Final Smashes. It's not bad per se, but I definitely prefer the old one here. But now it's on to Brawl, the game that introduced Final Smashes. This also happens to have the most characters that got updated, so let's just jump right into them. Of course, we have to start with Brawl's protagonist, Meta Knight. In Brawl and Smash 4, he used Galaxia Darkness. This would have him swing his cape in front of him to shroud his opponent in darkness before dealing a big strike. Now this move was original to Smash, but funnily enough, it actually got to make its way into the Kirby series through Kirby Planet Robobot. And then Ultimate completely replaced it. In Ultimate, he uses Darkness Illusion, which, I've gotta say, is just so much lamer. I'm not even sure why they decided to update this. The old one is both way cooler, way more unique, and also doesn't conflict at all with Ultimate's new transformation policy. I don't know, it just feels so weird to replace this once it finally became canon. I definitely prefer the older one here. Now, Pit is incredibly interesting as he's one of 4 characters to have gotten a new Final Smash in every game, so we get to do a little ranking here. First off, his Brawl Final Smash was Palutena's army. This would have a giant Palutena spawn behind the match and summon in a bunch of angels to attack Pit's opponents. While this is an interesting Final Smash, considering Palutena became a fighter in Smash 4, it makes sense that this had to be changed. Smash 4 has Pit use the 3 sacred treasures to attack his opponents. Now I don't know a lot about Kid Icarus, but from what I hear, this makes complete sense as a final smash. The wiki says they're the 3 most powerful weapons in Angel Land, so I'll believe it. Despite that though, this was changed to be the Lightning Chariot in Ultimate, which basically acts the exact same as the Dragoon. So of those two, which do I like the best? Well, despite most people saying the 4 one has a better origin, I kind of really like using the Lightning Chariot. It's one of the most fun final smashes to use as opposed to just standing still in 4, so I think I'm going to have to say that I like the new one best. If you disagree, that's more than fair, but I think Pit's final smashes just got better as time went on. Zero Suit Samus is our next character and is also one of the 4 to get a new final smash in each game. We already talked about how interesting her Brawl 1 was, so let's go ahead and jump to Smash 4. In this game she uses the gunship. She'll fly into the foreground and you'll get to shoot down at people on the stage with her laser. This was a pretty cool idea, certainly an improvement from her last one, but I think I enjoy Ultimates better. This has her fly into the background instead and use the Zero laser. Smash 4 took up a lot of screen space and I honestly wasn't a fan of it, so I'm very happy with this change. Just like Pit, ZSS is another character to have her final smash just get better with each game, which cannot be said for our next character. Wario is the character that I think was hit the worst from the Transformation Final Smash ban. Both of his Final Smashes have Wario become Wario Man, but how he uses him is very different. In Brawl and Smash 4, Wario Man basically acted like a turbo mode Wario, allowing him to spam all of his moves with basically no end lag. He can even gain infinite height using his moves, so it's safe to say this is one of the most fun Final Smashes in the series. But then Ultimate made it a cutscene. Now to be fair, the cutscene does look really good, having a nice comic book aesthetic, but come on, nothing can beat the original Wario Man. I get the Transformation Final Smashes hurt the pace of a match or whatever, but I feel like this Final Smash was an exception that should have been made. Yeah, many of the other Transformation Final Smashes hurt, but I don't really think anything can compare to this. I really hope this is reverted in the next game. Okay, onto a much less tragic, though still sort of a sad one with Snake. And Brawl's final smash was the grenade launcher. He would fly into the foreground and the player could shoot grenades out onto the stage to damage opponents. This was one of the most unique final smashes, and I really love the idea a lot. Yeah, he does take up a lot of screen space similar to Zero Suit Samus' Smash 4 final smash, but I think Snake looks cool doing it, so I don't care. I definitely prefer this over what he has in Ultimate, which has always made very little sense to me. Like, I'm not even sure how it's possible to miss with this thing if you're trying, so Brawl's is much cooler. Now our next character is a really interesting case. Pokemon Trainer has technically had the same final smash in both of the games he's in, which is Triple Finish. For only being one final smash for all 3 Pokemon, it works pretty well. However, during Smash 4, both Squirtle and Ivysaur were executed, leaving only Charizard as the playable character of the 3. That meant he could no longer use Triple Finish, so they came up with a new final smash in the form of Mega Charizard X. This is a fantastic choice as it comes from Pokemon X and Y and fits perfectly as a super strong transformation. This gave him access to a few powered up moves and made him overall extremely strong. With Pokemon Trainer coming back to Smash Ultimate though, sadly Charizard had to lose this, which is a shame because Mega Charizard X is one of my favorite Pokemon designs. Unlike the other transformation cuts though, this one is more fair. I guess they could do a unique final smash for Squirtle and Ivysaur, but Triple Finish is fine. I can't really say I prefer either as they're both extremely context dependent. Diddy Kong is luckily a lot less complicated. In every game he uses the rocket barrels, but in Brawl and Smash 4 he could control it, which was called the Rocket Barrel Barrage. He could even shoot down peanuts, which was a lot of fun as well. In Ultimate, this was just turned into a rapid mess of rocket barrels flying before a strong finisher, which in my opinion looks really bad, so I like the old one more. A character that got a somewhat similar tweak was Sonic. Now obviously Super Sonic had to be his final smash, I mean there was really no other choice. As you may be able to guess though, Brawl and Smash 4 let the player have full control over how Sonic flies. Due to his immense speed and power, Super Sonic was more than likely the single best final smash in the series. Really its only competition is Smash Ultimate Zelda, but that makes its fall from grace all the funnier. In Ultimate, players can now only control Super Sonic's height as he zips around the screen. At first glance this may still seem pretty strong, but considering he could just be air dodged through and his hits are super weak, this might just be the worst final smash in Ultimate. I think some sort of middle ground between the two versions needs to be found. I personally like the old one more since it was obviously way more fun to use, but I do hope that if that version comes back, it receives a somewhat decent nerf. King Dedede is character number 3 to have gotten a new final smash in every game. In Brawl it was the Waddle Dee Army where he would do a dance in the sky and summon in a bunch of enemies from the Kirby series onto the field. This was a super unique final smash that's only really similar to Pit's Brawl one from earlier. It's not really based on anything other than all of the enemies being from Kirby, but it was funny enough for me to like it. I can't say the same for the Smash 4 one though. This was Dedede Burst, where he would hit people with his hammer a few times and then use a bomb at the end. This is also based on nothing, but unlike the Brawl one, it's not interesting in the slightest. I really don't know why they changed his final smash to this, because man is it boring. Luckily Smash Ultimate gave us easily the best final smash for him, being Masked Dedede. Considering it's actually based on something and is a really well animated cutscene, I think it's safe to say his Ultimate one is the best. His Brawl one was certainly fun though, so Dedede is our first of these 4 to not get better every game. Lucario is another pretty interesting character because if you look at his Brawl final smash, it basically is his Ultimate one. This is the only final smash to basically be reverted as he did have a different one in Smash 4 before going back in Ultimate. In Smash 4, Lucario became Mega Lucario, which just like Mega Charizard fits very well as a transformation. The way this one works though is pretty boring, as he doesn't gain any new moves. He only deals 1.8 times damage and has super armor. So yeah, that's why I'm personally fine with him going back to his old one in Ultimate. Actually, his Ultimate one is sort of a combination of the two, as now Lucario will become Mega Lucario during it, though this is purely visual. I'm happy Mega Evolution is still referenced, so Ultimates is easily the best. Rob is not only our final Brawl character, but is also our final character to have had 3 different final smashes. His final smash in Brawl was the Diffusion Beam, and remember how I said Luigi had the weirdest final smash in the series? Well, scratch that. This is weirder, and not in a good way. This will have Rob spawn a small beam in front of his face that deals constant damage, but basically no knockback. Like, it doesn't look like a final smash at all, it seems like a mediocre item. Sure, Rob is invincible during it, but compared to every other final smash in the series, this might just be the least cinematic. Like, I get that they don't have much they could go off of for Rob, but surely they could have come up with something better than this, right? Well, luckily for us they did, as Smash 4 features the Super Diffusion Beam. This has Rob shoot out a big laser, though unlike similar attacks, it splits into 4 at the end. This is definitely an improvement over whatever they were cooking in Brawl, like it's not even a contest. I do think I like Ultimates best though, as it sends in homing missiles before the laser comes out, but both of these are pretty solid. Anything is better than that mess in Brawl. But that brings us to our final Smash game, Smash 4. By this point, they mostly figured out how to make good final smashes, so the changes here are much smaller. In fact, all 5 characters have conceptually the same final smashes in Ultimate, with only aesthetics and functionality changing. Let's start with our 3 aesthetic ones first. Cringe's final smash in Smash 4 was a Power Star, where it basically acts the exact same as her one in Ultimate, but uses a Power Star instead of a Grand Star. From my experience, the Smash 4 version also sucks way more. Like, don't get me wrong, both are some of the worst final smashes in the series, even if you ignore my anti-Rosalina bias, but Smash 4's was just so much worse. Shulk's final smash Chain Attack was changed in Ultimate to now have Fiora. Now, I'm not a Xenoblade nerd, but from what people say, this new final smash is not only a spoiler, but also just doesn't fit with how the attack works in Xenoblade, so I guess the old one is better. Finally, for the aesthetic trilogy, Mega Man's final smash, Mega Legends, originally did not have Proto Man or Base. The more the better for me, so I'm gonna have to say that Ultimates is better. Our final 2 characters are our last victims of the Transformation Final Smash curse. Little Mac's final smash in Smash 4 had him transform into Giga Mac, which would let him do all of Little Mac's regular moves, just significantly more powerful. Running around as this giant hulking monstrosity was a ton of fun, way more than Ultimate's bunch of punches, so this is definitely another cut I was sad to see. Pac-Man's final smashes, though, are a bit closer quality-wise. In both, Pac-Man will lead a Power Pellet and become a giant version of his classic self. In Smash 4, the player had much more control over him, allowing him to move in any of the cardinal directions, just like the original Pac-Man arcade game. Ultimate still lets you control Pac-Man, but only a little bit, as he will be rapidly chomping across the screen. I would say from personal experience that Ultimates is way stronger, but Smash 4's is definitely more accurate. I guess this depends on what you prefer in a character, but for me, I honestly like his Ultimate one just a smidge more. It's one of the most powerful in the game and still feels faithful enough to the source material. If you prefer the other one, that's totally fair, but for me, I think I'll have to say that Ultimate did it best. But anyways, that's it for this video. Are you mad that I didn't include Greninja since he didn't transform into Ash Greninja in Smash 4? Let me know in the comments. I hope this was an interesting look at how some Final Smashes evolved over the course of the series. Sadly though, I must now run away to go back to Tears of the Kingdom, so dry bones for Smash, and I'll see you guys next time.